all he gets all, well, hey, I'm trying to discuss this for the good of the community, and you won't do it. So whatever. Who gives a fuck? It's fucking
For
stupid.
the good of the community. Yes, Gabe. Well, folks, welcome to the Practical Pistol Show. My name's Ben. We're here with Mr. Gabe White. Say
Hi,
hi,
everybody.
Gabe. If you forgot who Gabe is, he's the junk carry guy. Junk carry SME. Yeah, Tim
Yes.
Herron, you're here to add some color.
I am here to add some color.
Not like racially, obviously. This is just like a white person podcast, but you're here to like make jokes and laugh and shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was wrong, Gabe? Did you like that?
I think you made some kind of suspicious racial remark the last time I was here, too. And it made me feel like I needed it.
About that. I mean, I don't think it's an our podcast problem. I just think that's the way shooting is. Like, you know.
I don't know.
What the hell was that? Did you guys hear that?
Yeah, that was crazy, yeah.
That was terrifying. That's all. All right, Gabe, we'll start it off with a question for you specifically. And, you know, I think people are going to be a little lost on this. So we're going to have to start from the very beginning with some of this stuff. So the guy opens the question with respect to your take on convergence and accommodation as it applies to target transitions. So 95% of the listeners are already lost.
Yep,
what the fuck is
this guy.
What the fuck
this
is
guy.
this is great. What the fuck is this guy talking about?
Oh, that's a question for me now? Okay, so he definitely what he's talking about is he's talking about a more detailed and technically correct description of the two of the big visual processes that are involved in shooting. They get talked about really badly, and they get conflated with each other all the time. People use really imprecise terms, and what he's using, convergence and accommodation, are the actual technically precise terms that separate these two processes that are frequently linked together, but factually are two separate things. So what he's talking about is convergence is what your eyes are pointed at.
Okay, and accommodation is?
Accommodation is the depth or distance that is sharp and clear. In other words, what your eyes are focused on.
So then what you look at would be what I'd say, and focal depth.
Yes, that would also be an accurate way to describe it. But you know what I'm saying, though. There are, I mean, think of all the terms people use to describe how they aim when aiming gets talked about using the sight, and people just have all kinds of terms in this very, a big, messy discussion.
Well, you should look at the front sight, right?
Well,
that's what I always hear.
I don't think you should look at the. See, to me, the word, the phrase "look at," that's like that's
crazy, dude.
Convergence. Look at is convergence. Or that's what that language means to me. But I realize not everybody always means everything the same way, which is what's useful about the term convergence and accommodation is actually nails it down. Except people don't know what they mean, so that's the problem.
Hey, well, you've just solved that problem. All of our listeners are now more educated.
There you go.
I appreciate that, sir. All right, so. Those are the two terms the guy's talking about with the question. With a target array like that of an Al-Prez, do you find yourself holding your visual accommodation at the depth of the front sight and shifting only your convergence to the center of the next target after you call the second shot? To say it another way, are you holding your accommodation at the depth of the front sight throughout the entire array, provided the targets are of a comparable distance and difficulty, and only shifting your convergence as you look towards the center of the next A zone? What do you think about that, Gabe?
Yes, I think I frequently do exactly that. And it ends up happening, maybe kind of a separate discussion, but I've learned to consciously control my convergence and accommodation separately. So I can, without having a physical object present, can shift my depth of accommodation, my focal depth, closer or further. And I tried to do this with you a little bit. We kind of talked through it a little bit in the first class I took with you, and you could do it, but you found it not really very interesting because you aim somewhat other ways, I think.
More, like 80% target focus.
Yeah. See, there you go. And I'm in a tiny minority in that I pretty much front sight focus on virtually every shot, even easy ones.
Yeah. Most people, I think it's fair to say, have a very hard time changing their focal depth to some point in space. You know, like if there's not an object there to focus on, it's very challenging to have your focal depth set for that. Yeah.
I agree. But when you can control it, it does make it a little bit simpler to just keep the front sight sharp and clear as I point my eyes from target spot to target spot to target spot and put the gun between my eyes and the target spot, and the front sight just stays sharp and clear because that's where my accommodation depth is.
All right. So does it change based on the width of the transitions? So let's say you have to transition far enough that you kind of, like when you look over towards the target you're going to, that you're going to transition onto, and you can no longer, I mean, it's very difficult for you to even peripherally see your gun or see your sight. Do you find that that's handled differently?
There's kind of a blurred line there. It's kind of yes and no. So when you snap your eyes to a new thing, a new spot, wherever that is, the natural thing to do, because convergence and accommodation are normally linked. I mean, they're shooting with iron sights, and besides that, I'm not sure what activity there is in human experience where you want to separate your convergence from your accommodation. Normally, what you look at is what you want to see sharp and clear. I bet there's some other kind of weird activity where you would separate those, but the big example in my mind, of course, is shooting a gun with iron sights, is where that's actually useful to do that. And so being that it's natural to have convergence and accommodation totally linked, when you look at a new spot, wherever that is, you tend to shift both convergence and accommodation. Now, that's the way maybe it works for me a lot of the time, and yeah, it probably does work that way a little bit more when the targets are more physically distant from each other or at a totally different distance from me. But not always, because of that conscious control that I have cultivated over accommodation and convergence separately. One of the things that I can do to consciously exert a lot of visual discipline over my shooting is to hold consciously, like the way you just make a fist. Like you can make a fist. You don't have to. There isn't like an if can I do this. You can just do it. You make a fist. It's the same thing with the accommodation for me. So what I'll do, if I'm finding myself at all being visually or mentally undisciplined in aiming with hard front sight focus, is I'll just lock my accommodation back to front sight depth and just keep it there and move my eyes around to the different target spots. So yeah, it's kind of more in the direction you're saying when the targets are further apart or much more physically separate from each other or further from me. But I kind of deliberately do something different than that because then I can make sure that I'm going to see that front sight sharp and clear.
I'm just asking, Gabe. I'm just asking questions, man. I have an inquiring mind. All right. Here's what I really want to know. Tim Herron?
Yes?
What did you think of all that?
Oh, I got smoke coming out my ears. That's a lot of...
It's a lot, right?
With the
Motherfucker's tiresome to talk to, isn't he?
It makes me feel really dumb.
You and me both, brother.
Well,
no, it's good stuff, though. It's good stuff. I've never heard the terms or utilized the terms convergence and accommodation. So,
well, it doesn't matter if you call them. It
paints a different light on that.
It doesn't matter if you call them elephant and donkey.
Right.
It's relevant. There's the thing that you're looking at, and then there's your focal depth.
Right.
Right. What do you think about keeping your focal depth on, let's say on your front sight while you transition through some targets?
I've tried that, especially like trying to keep a focal depth while like at the make ready. So I'm looking at a target, and of course when the RO says make ready, and you pull the gun, and you get a sight picture, and then I try to keep that focal depth on it because I've played around with it thinking like, well, maybe it'll allow me to see the front sight a little faster to quicken that first shot speed off the draw. And unfortunately, for me, it doesn't seem to work any better or any worse than just kind of positioning my eyesight to a target focus, more like what you and I've discussed too, Ben. And just like kind of then superimposing the sight picture onto where I'm aiming at the target, and then just letting the shot rip. So for me, instead of always worrying about the accommodation of setting my focal point to be one specific detail all the time, I've probably gained a lot more. I don't know. I've probably gained a lot more as a shooter, learning how to shoot with a softer or tighter sight focus or target focus, more so than changing how I see things. I don't know. That makes
I
sense.
get what you're saying. That
Right.
makes a lot of sense to me. Gabe, you're the only person I'm aware of that can accommodate to a point in space without an object.
I really think that there are more people that can do it
I
than
can do
me.
it.
I think that well, what you were just describing, Tim, is absolutely one of the things that I will sometimes do. Say I'm kind of like mentally jacked up. I'm kind of nervous. I'm maybe feeling not so mentally calm and controlled and disciplined.
Gabe, I was trying to make an important point. I mean, in a world, everybody I feel is blessed with some talents. Like, wouldn't you rather have had some like really cool sexual thing, or I don't know?
Who says I don't? People have more than one talent.
People do, but that's pretty rare. I mean, maybe you're a special snowflake. I don't know. Anyways, yeah. So what were you going to say before I derailed you?
Okay. I don't even remember now. No, you know what? I think that I don't think I'm the only one who can do this. I am not sure whether I learned to do it or learned that I could do it. And I think that anybody. So let me say it like this: anybody who is able to shoot a pistol with both eyes open, with iron sights, and have one blurry target and two sharp and clear front sights is doing what I'm doing or nearly doing what I'm doing. The only difference between that, which is the kind of, I realize it is not universal, but that's kind of the I think that's basically the by-the-book standard method of iron sights, if there is such a thing.
I don't know. You could always write a book and make it.
Yeah, I guess so. The only difference between that and what I'm describing is that I'm doing it without front sight present yet, and that's only just a little step beyond what I just described, because the fact is that if you see one blurry target and two sharp and clear front sights with both eyes open, and that is the way you can at least shoot some shots, you factually are unhinging your convergence from your accommodation. You are separating those two processes and controlling them separately. The only step I've taken it beyond that is doing it without the front sight there yet.
Well, let me ask you the question that's on a lot of people's minds right now.
Mm-hmm.
Is this worth the effort?
I think for stuff. Oh, please go ahead.
I was like, can I answer that? I think there is a benefit to it, because I think the more time that you spend learning to be able to differentiate or separate the two, I think the easier it becomes then to be able to lead the gun with your eyes to the next target and then reaccommodate your vision to something different.
Well, you wouldn't have to reaccommodate, right?
That's true.
I mean, that'd be the advantage. You're cutting out the time of
the time it takes to change focus.
Yes.
Well, that depends on when you're changing the focus, because if you're able to change the focal depth, the accommodation, while you are moving the gun to the target spot, whether it's coming out of the holster, ready position, or transitioning from another target, then that time is stacked on top of the transition time and then ends up costing basically nothing.
Well, it's not stacked on top. It would be put together.
Right.
Well, that's to the extent that there could be an advantage. That's the advantage, is that if you can stack that time on top of each other, then you can either aim with a harder front sight focus without costing time. You can aim with harder front sight focus without costing time. That's the benefit, because you've already shifted the focus or kept it there.
Right. And to be honest, what you're talking about, Gabe, is why the time for your eyes to accommodate, to shift focal depth, is why shooting target focused saves so many people so much time.
Yes, and then and I think there's a parallel discussion with the closing non-dominant eye or not. I mean, for people who factually do need to close their non-dominant eye when they're shooting, or squint it, you can do that as you're bringing the gun to the target spot, and it doesn't have to cost time. It would cost time if you had to get the gun on target and then only after that close or squint your non-dominant eye. But because the muscle of closing an eye, I mean, like that's like winking, right? I mean, like so many people can wink. There's probably a pretty small number of people that simply cannot wink, right? So that's something that's a known physical action with muscles that many more people have learned to consciously control. The shifting the focal depth, the accommodation, is pretty much the same role, works very similarly to this, just not nearly as many people, I think, have learned to consciously control it.
Yes. And I mean, to be honest, what the fix for the eye thing, the solution for a lot of this stuff is just learn to shoot target focus, right? I mean, for
absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. That's one thing that I've come to believe more than anything else after spending a bunch of time being really excited about this vision stuff and working on it and discussing it with a lot of people. There's lots and lots of people who are just not wired this way. And I think that there are a lot of people who are just, they might try, but they're going to. I think there's a bunch of people that are going to beat their head into the wall trying to do it, and there are some other people that maybe can develop the ability to do it with some practice, and there's some people who this is just the way it works for them. But quite honestly, I think I'm kind of in the minority, and I think that
how dare you, sir?
Shooting.
No, I would agree.
Sit there in your leopard print shirt, acting like you're in the minority.
I think target focus shooting is an excellent solution for a lot of people. I think especially in conjunction with a high visibility front sight like fiber optic or whatever else, especially effective. And I think that closing or squinting an eye, that's kind of sort of separate discussion, but closing or squinting an eye is also an excellent solution for a whole lot of people.
Yeah, and that's also a lot of people's solution for cross dominance issue.
Yes. I think learning to do this though would probably be more beneficial if we were all learning to draw and split a playing card. You know what I mean? That type of thing where you really have to have a super.
Wait, you can't do that?
No, I can do that.
I can't.
But
Fuck that.
Right, but
you can't. 45, you cheating homo. It only counts if you do it with a 22.
Dude, I did it with a 9mm.
Oh, that's pretty good.
That's practically a 22.
That's basically a 22.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I think that's learning to do that or practicing to do that, Gabe. That's kind of where I kind of learned a lot about you're focusing on the edge of the card and then changing that accommodation very, very quickly as you draw the gun to superimpose the sights on exactly that same spot on the card and then pressing the trigger.
You motherfuckers are making me feel very inadequate tonight.
You can do that.
I can't hit a playing card. Maybe if you face it at me, I can't split it in half for sure. Off a bench, I can't hit that shit. And then Gabe can do cool shit with his vision. God damn it.
Well, you could when I led you through the exercise to try to make this work for you in the first time I was around you in class, you were able to do it, and it just wasn't something that you rely on within your repertoire of shooting skills. You use other things, do things a little differently, and obviously it works really friggin' well. Your way works better than my way, doesn't it?
What's that?
I said your ways work better than my ways, don't they? I mean, it seems like it. Seems pretty clear.
As far as vision, I don't think it works any better. I mean, to be honest, Gabe, a target focus on the stuff that's close. If the target's far enough away that there's any sight or refinement of sight picture that you need to do, then doing the accommodation would happen simultaneous to the sight picture being, sort of sorted out. You know what I mean?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So that's how. I mean, it's just a different workaround for the same problem.
Yeah. Now, there's one time I think there's a really interesting circumstance with this whole shoot target focus or front sight focus discussion. There's a time when target focusing is way better than front sight focusing, or partly is, and that's when the target is difficult enough to even stay visually fixated on because it's very difficult to see because it's either really, really far away and it's really tiny. Think if you were trying to shoot a rabbit or something that's hard to see 150 yards away among sagebrush, where if you were to get front sight focused, the rabbit's going to basically disappear because it's only so barely visible in the first place. So it can be, target, background, lack of contrast. It could be lighting conditions. It can be extreme distance or tininess of target. And when you get front sight focus, the little bit of loss of clarity that comes with getting the front sight sharp and clear, a little bit of loss of clarity that happens to the target can make the target itself disappear. And in a way, that kind of doesn't really solve the whole issue, because on that kind of shot, a lot of times the fine degrees of sight alignment become very important, in which case you kind of want a front side focus. But it's not just a clean decision one way or the other.
What you do see in practical shooting competition, and maybe for shooting at people, would be if the target's moving.
Yeah.
So we do see that, quite often if there's a slider or a swinging target. I definitely get better results focusing on the target. Definitely.
Yeah.
Because and for the difficulty of the targets we shoot at, cleaning up the sight alignment is not really going to matter. Not that much. Yeah. Mostly finding the center of the target, even though it's moving, and guiding the gun to the center and keeping it there.
Yeah.
That matters.
Yeah, I definitely did bring up an example that's kind of removed from USPSA, but yeah.
But it would have to do with shooting at people. That's wrong. We don't talk about that. Oh my God, this little asshole just linked me up to him shooting a card, splitting a card in two. Tim, why are you doing this to me?
Because I got nothing else. I got nothing on you.
What are you talking about? You've got charisma, you've got style. People like you. It's really irritating. Oh my God. Yeah, you split that bitch. That's annoying. Don't send me any more stuff. How many takes was that?
That was you honestly want to know? That was 2.
Fuck me. Did you get lucky? You got lucky.
No, I backed it up.
Shut up. Okay. Let's move on.
I got another video that shows it backing it up.
No more videos of your shit. How do I get better at shooting without jerking the gun off target and flinching, especially on my second shot, and especially when I try pulling the trigger faster? I'm a mid to upper B class production shooter and a newly minted A class steel challenge shooter preparing for limited nationals. I feel like my biggest weakness is that I have a tendency to jerk the trigger. Every C hit I get is low left, and the faster I go, the more it happens. A shocker there. I feel like I have a greater tendency than most to jerk. Do you see this problem with many students? That's good. I plan on tripling the number of rounds. I plan on tripling the number of rounds. I'm like rubbing my head. It just hurts my head. Tripling the number of rounds I normally shoot to try and correct this problem. I plan on shooting 200 rounds a day, 5 days a week, indoor range on my lunch breaks until limited nationals in October. Do you have any advice on how to correct this problem? Man. He has a follow-on question about pressing the trigger technique, but I think we'll start with the jerking. Tim Heron, you guys shoot him low left, it gets worser the faster he goes.
Because he's lacking trigger control, and he's probably not gripping the gun near as hard as he should be.
Okay, what's the fix?
Grip the gun harder, and he needs to dry fire more, and probably needs to dry fire, especially if he's shooting a double action, single action gun. He definitely needs to focus on like double action trigger pulls, like white wall drills, something like that, and really focus on like what he's seeing from the front sight.
Okay. So, Mr. Gabe, what do you think?
I think it's a tough problem. That's a persistent problem, and a lot of people have that problem. And I think that there are actually 3 really big problems that could maybe kind of lead to what he's talking about. There's the anticipation, but that's not really a whole answer unto itself, because that gets manifested different ways by different people. You've got the anticipation where you kind of shove the whole gun down at your shoulders. You got the anticipation where it leads to simply jerking the trigger. You got anticipation that leads to squeezing all your fingers and not just your trigger finger. And that's the one that's kind of jumping out to me. And those can also be just basic mechanical problems of not, like, just like Tim said, not gripping the gun hard enough, your trigger pulls moving the gun. Moving, or whether it's anticipation-based or not, whether it's a pure mechanical problem or an anticipation-based problem, moving the other 3 fingers of the strong hand in addition to the trigger finger. And whatever the root of it is, I think a bunch of work of isolating the trigger finger and just moving the trigger finger is probably, might be pretty key.
All right, guys, let me tell you the fix for this, in my opinion. Because, yeah, I do see this a lot. So here's what the typical thing to do is have people shoot. So this guy sees the problem. He knows he's doing it, and he knows it's a trigger control problem. I mean, I think he's on it there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, normally what people want to do intuitively is slow down. So like this guy says, hey, man, the faster I go, the worse it gets, right? So that's, like Gabe said, that's pointing us more towards he's anticipating the recoil blast of the gun. Whatever he's doing, whether he's pushing the gun down with both hands or squeezing all of his fingers, or I would call that pulling the trigger with his whole hand. That's what I like to say, Gabe.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, the fix for this is for him to see the problem happen. It's to see and feel it happen and to understand how it's happening. So I think the easiest way for him to see it and feel it is to do dry fire, but in a specific way. So instead of holding the gun with both hands, pointing it at a target, and then pressing the trigger with the gun unloaded, I like to make him pull the trigger as hard and fast as he possibly can, right, in dry fire. So what that usually does, like in almost all cases, people press the trigger. When they press it hard and fast, that's what he's doing during live fire, whether he knows it or not. He's doing that. When he's thinking, all right, I press the trigger hard and fast, he'll do the same thing in dry fire that he does live, but without the blast and recoil there, he'll get to see what he's doing, and that'll be pushing the gun down, right? So when he presses the trigger fast, he pushes down. You guys following me here?
Yeah.
So the goal of doing the dry fire is that he sees that happen, and to me, more importantly, feels it happen. Right? So he's got to feel what's going on in his hands and feel himself pushing the gun down. And then you continue dry firing, again, pressing the trigger fast and straight. Right? Fast, straight, and also hard. Again, to simulate shooting rapid fire, where he'll be pressing the trigger hard and fast. Do the same thing in dry fire, press it hard and fast, and learn to press it straight, hard and fast. And like Gabe pointed out, there's a bunch of, like, is he pressing with these fingers or that finger? Is he pushing down, or maybe his trigger finger, he's like pressing the trigger sideways, some kind of shit. It could be any of that. It doesn't really matter what it is, because he'll see it happen, and you keep doing dry fire until you figure it out and stop doing that. And he trains his hands to pull the trigger fast and straight, however long that takes. And then go do live fire and keep speeding up until he sees these problems happen. And again, once you can see and feel this stuff happening when you're shooting live ammo, that's really when people hop on the learning curve and are able to put a stop to whatever kind of nonsense they're doing. The goal is just press the trigger. I mean, when a guy can run the trigger fast and straight during rapid fire, like doing a bill drill, and you don't see a bunch of low left hits on the target, you see kind of a nice even, depending on the distance and the speed, you see a nice even spread of shots. That's what you're looking for. When you see a bunch of stuff going low left, that's an issue. And that's what he's going to want to sort out. In any case, and I think both of you guys will agree with this, adding more round count ain't going to solve the problem.
True that.
Yeah, when you said, what is he going to do, 200 rounds a day, 5 days a week until November?
Like,
ouch!
I'm doing
if
it
I had
wrong.
that much money, I would just go take a vacation or something.
Really?
No, I don't know. I just made that up. But, my point is that's a lot of shooting. That's expensive.
It's 1,000 rounds a week.
That is expensive. Well, some of us reload, Gabe. You might want to look into that.
Don't you think it's still expensive whether you reload or not?
No, it's the same price when you reload, to be honest.
You're just going to shoot more.
You shoot a lot more. Because, your ammo money is still your ammo money. That's what people do. They just,
Right. Why would you want to give up half your ammo money? You just shoot twice as much. Right. I got it.
Yeah, no, but
and spend a whole bunch more time making the ammo.
Yeah. It's a good time to plug Blue Bullets.
Yes.
But I'm not going to do that. Everybody knows. Tim, you got a follow-up for this guy? I mean, I think I said a bunch of really intelligent, useful shit, and I want you to top it.
Yes.
Put the fucking cherry on top of this thing.
Well, when I talked about doing the white wall drill, I mean, that's a drill I really like to do, but I think a lot of of people do just exactly what you're talking about. When they go back and try to fix a dry fire issue, especially with the trigger control, they start doing things like staging the trigger and really just like kind of micro-focusing on just exactly what the front sight's doing as they're staging or pressing through the trigger slowly. And I agree. I think doing a white wall drill bit, really hammering hard on the trigger.
To me, see what you think
that.
about. I'll make a proposition for you, Tim. And
Okay.
Gabe, you can hit this too. In almost all cases, if people are doing something, they're shooting stages and there's some mistake, there's some issue that's happening. In almost all cases, it is counterproductive to slow down to fix the issue.
I agree.
You know, because then usually when you slow down, you just like don't have that issue. You know, or like whatever it is. Like
right. Then they think like, well, I fixed the issue. Well, no, you really didn't.
No, you just went slow, motherfucker. That's not a
You
solution.
didn't even address the issue. Right. Yeah, you got to find out a way to address the issue to find a solution for that issue.
Whatever it is, like when I run to position, I almost fall over. It's like, well, you could run slower, which sounds dumb, or
you could
like bend your knees and like stabilize yourself coming into position. Like you handle it how you want. That's what I think.
You're absolutely right.
I'd agree with you there. I think that that's one of the issues I have with doing things at less than your normal full natural speed you can move. Is that a lot of times it changes the nature of the motion itself. You know, if you draw a certain way with a certain motion when you're moving basically as fast as you can move, when you go say, okay, well now I'm going to do it at 50% speed, I think it's very insidious and common that you end up changing the shape of the motion itself just because you're not doing it at full speed at full force anymore. And then maybe what you figure out there isn't really valid when you go back to full speed.
Yeah, actually, I distinctly remember a few weeks ago in a class, I was demonstrating draw technique, and some guys were like, hey, can you show me that slow? And I was like, no. I was like, I waited to get that reaction where he kind of like his eyes pop out a little bit. I was like, no, like if I do it slow, it's not going to be the same. Like I'll do it a few times, you know, from a few angles or whatever. But if doing it slowly, it's very difficult to make the motions the same.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Totally
people don't work that way.
Yep.
Well, Gabe, thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Good time. Do you have anything you want to plug? I don't know what you're into lately.
Where's
your website? We've been promised a website for 2 years.
Yeah, but I'm a liar. I don't have a website. But that's okay. I don't need a website. You can just go find me on the internet, like on Pistol Forum or wherever, and send me a PM or something if you want me to come and do a class. We can still figure that out. I don't need no website
a PM
to come and
on
teach
a
a class.
Forum? What is
1998?
Well,
yeah, that was a while ago.
Facebook?
1998?
No, I'm not on Facebook. I'm so friggin' busy, man. I don't have time for this website stuff. I need to do it. But I'm going to go out and do a class pretty soon, beginning of October in Colorado, and a couple of people are talking to me about other classes in other places. So
what is this?
Things are kind of moving along.
This is face shooting oriented, yes?
It is technical skills and face shooting oriented. Yes, it is. It is intended as defensive handgun skills, but definitely leans pretty hard on
like using
shooting as a big part of that. Yeah, yeah.
You use timers and all that gay shit, so a competition shooter would enjoy it.
Yeah, but if you see a defensive handgun shooting, then that's like boom, price is twice as much.
Well, hold on, but
make that money.
Gabe, if a guy shows up with his USPSA rig, are you going to kick him out?
No, that's fine. I mean, I make it real clear that it's intended to be high performance with concealed carry. But it definitely is that technical skills are technical skills, and a large portion of the class is technical skills work that, quite honestly, I don't think would be terribly unfamiliar to a USPSA shooter anyway. But no, it's not a problem if somebody wants to show up and shoot their production rig if that's what they want. I've had people do that before, and they can do that. That's fine. I'm even developing a little set of kind of core base skill face shooter Timmy standards that's actually something I've kind of been thinking about in trying to figure out how to arrange them. Is how am I going to handle? Well, I kind of mean for people to use concealment gear, but they don't have to. So how am I going to handle that, etc.
What did Todd used to just like add a half-second penalty to whatever
No,
right?
he had like 3 seconds, man. It was gnarly.
Well, that was a little bit punitive. That's too
I
much,
think
maybe.
I agree. I'm thinking like a quarter second.
Quarter second.
Yeah, what do you think it should be worth? Say
I
production
think
rig
a
versus
quarter.
concealed
I
gear.
think a quarter second for the holster and a quarter second for the mag pouch, depending on what you're doing. I think you get
None
a
of this
quarter
stuff
second
involves a
each.
reload, so forget the mag pouch.
Well, reloads are a very important defensive skill, Gabe. What if you need to shoot like 8 people?
Well,
This
if you're
happens a lot.
I think the draw is even more
Way more.
important, and so I focus on. It's really not real complicated, but it's just a kind of a short series of practice drills that you'll also get tested on that basically amount to draw the gun and burn them down in several ways.
I think a quarter second of draws. I mean, that's pretty fair.
You want me to run the standards by? I'm kind of interested to hear what you guys have to say about them.
All right, yeah, hit me.
Okay, so all of these are going to be used as practice drills in the class, and then everybody's also going to do a couple of timed runs for official score on them. So
Okay.
one of them,
Are there
the goal,
coins or trophies or what's the game?
little pins that I have not gotten yet. They're on the way. I don't have them yet. Haven't seen them.
We'll
Hopefully
post a
that'll work
picture
out.
on the website when you get
But
it.
yeah,
Right?
there'll be right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so these are all intended. The idea here was to reach for high performance from concealed carry and attempt to duplicate what are considered some, approximate master, grandmaster level standards that would be recognized as that in the competition shooting world. Now let's try to reach for that level with our concealed carry gear. And that's where I kind of have to, face the fact that maybe I need to make it a little bit realistic. But here's what I got. So 2-second bill drill. That's one.
Okay.
Failure to stop, 2 to the body, 1 to the head. However, the head is not going to be the whole head. It's going to be a somewhat reduced target zone. Let's just say let's say a 3x5 card, just for the sake of discussion. I'd like it to be a little bit bigger than the USPSA upper A zone. So 2 to the body, 1 to the head in 1.7 seconds.
That's 40.
4 to the body, 2 to the head. So kind of same thing, just more of it in 2.6 seconds.
Okay.
And 2 to the head in 2 seconds.
From concealment.
What distance?
Well, that all 7 yards. And this is the part I've been kind of wrestling with of how to phrase it to respect both people running from concealment and have it be very difficult but possible for a very skilled person from concealment, but also not start penalizing people. I don't want to penalize people for using their production rig. So my idea was those are going to be the time standards if you were, say, using a production rig, and if you're using legit concealment, then you're going to get a quarter second bonus on all those.
If you're using, I see.
You see what I'm saying? Like those will be the base standard for non-concealed gear. So 2-second bill drill. That's a recognized benchmark in the competitive world from, say, production gear. But if you're using concealment, I feel like I got to give it a little something for concealment, because otherwise what I'm really doing is saying you have to shoot a junk carry rig or you can't make these standards. I mean, like a concealed strong side IWB. I don't think it's really realistic for me to expect a 1-second draw out of that. I really don't.
It's not. It can be done.
It's not.
Obviously, but it's not.
That's
you're not
expecting.
You're not expecting 1 second draw. You're saying the guy has to essentially do that on demand, repeatedly, which is very challenging.
It's also not completely on demand. You're going to get spread throughout the class 2 attempts at each of those, so that's 8 total attempts.
Okay, and it has to be all ends or whatever?
Oh, let me get back to that. And if you can make half of them, if you can make 4 out of the 8, I'm going to call that good. And that is a balance between, as an example, so Todd Green with the fast, you could win the coin with 2 out of 3 successful attempts in one day. So it's a little bit short of the consistency standard that he required. So I'm talking 50%. He was 2/3. But it's also not like the USPSA classification system where you can 0 or hero it for years and years and all the zeros don't count, and eventually you hook up enough times and then it counts. It's kind of it's intended to be kind of in between those two things. More consistency than is required under that system, but not quite as much as Todd required on the fast. And it doesn't have to be all A's. That's another thing that I think is maybe going to make Timmy heads explode some places. But I See, I have never really personally been convinced that, just talking combatively, that it is not valuable if you have just a blisteringly fast ability to get the gun out, get it on target, start shooting that target with multiple shots, and maybe you end up with, say the bill drill, for example. If you got 4 right where they need to go, and then you got like a couple of C's, I don't think that's like a big problem. I mean, and you did it in a very, very timely manner, which can have its own value depending on the circumstances.
Holy
I don't feel
shit.
like that means you need to just, that's it. You didn't shoot it clean, so you're a loser. So
Yeah,
here's
you
what
are. You didn't shoot the guy clean.
No,
What do you
no,
not
I
understand
don't.
about that?
I don't agree. I don't agree. So
Accuracy is final, and speed is fine.
yeah.
Fucking speed.
So A zone, -0 zone, or the little head box, if we're using, for whatever target we've got, that's going to be no penalty. The B, the C, and the -1 zone, if were we to be using IDPA targets, is quarter-second penalty per shot. D zone is going to be +1 second per shot, because I think D's pretty much suck it.
Yeah,
And
but a
misses are going to be +2 seconds per shot. So you're not going to be able to go like spray the target area and throw misses downrange.
Takes most guys out of it.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but it's also not quite the hard. But think about it though; it's also not the hard line that just says if you shot it unclean, you lose. I mean, think of that. How about that bill drill? So say you got a guy from concealment and shoots a bill drill in 210 clean. I'm going to call that made this high and difficult standard. And if you got a guy who shoots it in say 2 seconds from concealment, and they got 5A1C. I'm also going to call that good. I think that's pretty wicked. I do.
But who's
I think it's really good. What?
Who's the winner?
Who's the winner? I don't know. We all win. Not the bad guy. He's not the winner.
The guy who's most accurate.
So what I've described though, that's going to be like the higher threshold of standards, and I've also got a couple of little bit lower ones. So it's not like you're either awesome or you're nothing. There'll be some kind of graduated level to these, but those are the high standards, the ones that I would love to see people be able to do.
Okay, I don't think you're going to be giving out many pins.
Well, not maybe that pin, but
there'll be other pins.
There'll be at least one somewhat lower pin that will be not as hard as that.
Like a douche pin.
it's really not. I really don't think it's a douche pin. It's just not quite as awesome. I mean, like the ones I described. I mean, I think if somebody can do that from concealment, I think they're pretty friggin' off the hook. But there's also going to be somewhat lower thresholds because I don't want it to be off the hook or nothing.
Are there different standards for women or children?
No.
Okay. So you're really not taking a page out of the USPSA book with this thing.
Probably not that much.
Do old people get a boost?
Old people, no. Why? Why do they need a boost?
I don't know. I'm just asking.
Have you seen those old guys shooting USPSA? There's like some old guy hobbling around and he shoots the fuck out of everything and kicks ass.
And then he gets the super senior plaque. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, but no, I don't have a senior pin. No seniors pin, dude.
Man, that's ageist.
Well, I agree that I'm not going to be giving out many of the pins for the numbers that I described.
You're not going to give out many. And with how diligent you've been about getting your website set up, doing classes, you may not give out any. I don't know.
Well, that may be, but
you should post a picture.
That may be, but I mean, think about like
post a picture of the cool pin and say the best part about this pin is that you can't have one.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh my God, this is awesome.
I mean, when I think of this whole structure of Timmy awards in a class thing, I like there to be a goal. I like there to be something to reach for. I like that its root is in supposed to be in the the ballpark of master grandmaster level performance as recognized in the competitive shooting disciplines and brought into the Timmy world. I like all that stuff, and I mean thinking about the fast and Todd Green. I mean he did not give out a lot of fast coins. That was hard to win. This will be too.
That was hard to win.
It was.
No, seriously, like that's.
Yeah.
This is harder, in my opinion.
Do you think? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
I think so.
I think it's.
Maybe.
I think it's
probably maybe.
No, seriously, I think it's a good thing though. I wouldn't want a coin that like just about anybody that could go take a class.
No, that's what the douche pin's for.
Yeah. See, I want the pin that's like beast mode, not the "oh you tried, bro."
Yeah.
Fuck that pin.
Yeah, you
exactly.
tried, bro. that's the two levels. It's all you tried and beast mode. That's it.
I want the beast mode pin, not the "oh good try, bro."
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what? I bet you if you went to my class, and I think you would have a very, very strong shot at doing it. I think you would.
Beast mode pin?
Oh hell yeah!
I think I'd have a good chance at a beast mode pin.
Oh hell, you guys would be able to rock
you know what?
it. And
I look at that and I'm like, the beast mode pin's not really a lock.
That's
not
the
a
beauty
lock.
about it too. It's not a fucking lock. That's
not a lock.
To me, that's what makes it even more like.
It makes
God,
it
I
more
want
interesting.
it. It makes you hungry for it.
I want a beast mode pin, but you
Yeah,
got to
but
get out there and start doing classes, Gabe. Otherwise, no one's going to know or care about the beast mode pin.
I know you're right. I need website, classes, and Facebook. Right, that's what I need.
Right, and that's
and
what
what
you
about
just
Twitter?
like.
Should I get Twitter?
Nah, screw Twitter.
No, Twitter's just
bullshit.
man.
No, Facebook.
You
You
got
gotta have
Mike
Facebook.
Seeklander thing where he sends out emails like daring people like you're too much of a pussy to go train and stuff like that, or like if you don't want to train, like get off my mailing list. I read that like holy shit. Like,
Well, that's funny.
that's awesome.
That is awesome. That's pretty cool.
That's
No, but I mean, don't you think you could make 4 out of 8 attempts at those?
I think I could.
I think hell yeah, you can.
I think so too.
I think you can too.
But at the same time, it's just like Ben said, it's not a lock, which is
It's not a lock.
It's what's even more intriguing about it because it's like, man, if I screw up, that's it. You know.
Well, see,
I took
that's
Gabe's class, and all I got was the "all you tried, bro" pin, and fuck that.
well, but see, I'm gonna have to demo them in every class, right? So I mean that means I'm in this. I'm putting myself in that same position because I think it's to my benefit, and that's also what I want. I mean, I don't need. I mean, that's only good for me if my standards are hard enough that I can't just walk through them all the time. I mean, I could easily screw that up. Definitely could.
Yes, these would be the demos you get nervous about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which is a great value of demos.
Yes, I think you got to do them. I think it undermines the class if you don't do the demos.
Absolutely agree.
You got to do this stuff.
Absolutely agree. Yeah.
All right, fuck.
This has been an awesome podcast.
This has been a great podcast. It's always good having Gabe.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, you guys. Great to see you.
Thank you for coming on. If you want to do a class with Gabe and win a pin, you can't because you're fucked.
If you can find me, maybe you can hire me.
You can find Gabe. You can hire him to teach you to shoot people, and you got a pin. I want these pins to be so notorious, Gabe, that you see a man walking the street with a beast mode pin.
You know not to fuck with it.
That's not a guy with which you fuck. Like
no, it's all total insider shit. I mean, just like even finding me in the first place to get me to come give the class, you would have to know what these pins are because they're just going to have they have my emblem on them and it doesn't say anything. So you're not going to know what it is. If you don't know, I'm not going to tell you. That's basically it. If you don't know, I'm not going to tell you.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
Because the first rule about beast mode is we don't talk about beast mode.
Yeah, if you're not part of the club, you just don't know.
The guy comes up to you like, hey man, what's that pin all about? You're like, get the fuck away from me.
Yeah. Give me $1, maybe I'll tell you.
I'm going to click stop broadcast now because people are like,